Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with Anasa. I am so happy to be here with you this morning. So let's start with meditation. And it looks like everybody on knows this meditation. It's the Om meditation that we do in 4 stages, and there are 4 stages of the way we repeat it. So the way the Om sound works is that the tailbone, it's ah, at the heart, it's ooh, and then there's at the third eye, and then it keeps going. And the first way we do it is we sing it, and you start at whatever note works for you. And we do that 9 times. Then we whisper it 9 times. Then we watch the energy rise as we say it inside 9 times. And then we just watch the energy 9 times. So the first 2 we'll do together, and the second 2 you will do at your own pace. And then we'll come back and do question and answer. So take your attention inside and visualize your central channel as an open conduit between the tip of your tailbone and energetically extending out the top of your head. So it's an energetic conduit. So as you say and sing the Om sound, you are watching it hit the energy centers as it moves up the central channel and out. Om. 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 Gently open your eyelids just a crack, but hold your energy in your central channel in the back of your body. So your attention doesn't change even though you open your eyes and let a little light in. So you have the experience of being inside and letting the outer awareness gently begin to come in. You can open your eyes just a little bit further, still holding your attention in your central channel. Feel your awareness all the way up and down. As you let in the light. And as you're ready, open your eyes all the way, holding your attention inside. And see if you can hold your awareness without leaping to merge with the outer. So we're going to talk just briefly about our purpose, the purpose we all share at the heart of being a human being. And as we see it, the purpose of humanity is to know, love, and serve the highest best for each one of us, which is the same as the highest best for the whole. Because if we are not in alignment with that highest best, then we are living a life of reaction rather than a life based in purpose. And this perspective gives us that split second before we engage, because we are attempting to merge with awareness itself over time to live from that state of merging, so that we have the experience of acting from that state of bigger awareness. So that when we do act, we actually have purpose and intention. And by holding the same purpose and intention day in and day out of union with the highest, then our thought, feeling, and actions begin to be in union with the highest. And from that point, a deep kind of trust begins to assert itself in our inner being, a trust that says we are so deeply connected to our source that whatever happens is okay. This kind of trust is inconceivable to most human beings. But this is the trust that becomes possible when we merge ourselves, our purpose, our feeling, our thoughts, our deepest awareness when we are in alignment with the whole, the highest best for the whole, the source of everything that is, then that trust, just as if it's magic, appears underneath it all. And it's there waiting always. It's we who do not allow our intention, our intention, and the power of our concentration to deepen to the point of union. There is nothing else in this world that we can trust except our source. But in having the opportunity to explore that, and each of us has that, or we wouldn't be on this call. It's an opportunity of extreme luxury in a way, that we get to take our attention inside. We are not running for our lives at this moment. Survival at this moment is something that we can, it's not requiring our attention. So we have the opportunity, the very rare opportunity, of turning our attention inward to become deeper and deeper in our awareness and connection to the highest for every living being. So we welcome you to this program, and we welcome your questions. Thank you so much for coming. How may we serve today? Andrew.
There's some advice about how to be with or talk to people. It's not that they're skeptical of divine grace or of anasa, but they're skeptical that they're capable or worthy of receiving contact or benefit because of whatever.
Yes. So the question is this: how do we counsel people in our lives who are skeptical of the possibility for their own individual personhood to be, well, we'll use the word worthy, but there are a lot of other reasons that keep people from feeling that it's possible for them to actually be connected to divinity. We use the word divinity, that's not comfortable for everyone, but we'll just use it for the moment. Union with the highest. You can understand. It can also be knowing, loving, and serving God. I mean, there's all kind of language that we have, none of which is really the truth, but all of which points to what this union is. And so because we live in a culture that's reward and punishment, and everything is supposedly based on merit, and the idea is that you will never accumulate the merit required or the whatever it is, a lot of people are limited by a sense of shame that they haven't worked through from their childhood, from who knows what was impressed on them, the idea that they were less than in some way, and so that they are inhibited from reaching deeply inside themselves to experience this union, which is a very personal, intimate experience. And it's not just an experience that's lived through, it becomes an experience that's lived from. And who feels worthy of that? And let's face it, who is worthy of that? I've never met anybody. Have you? Because perfection is not really what we're built for or what we experience in our lives on a day-to-day basis. So how, in the field of this imperfection, can we attain union with the highest best for all of us? This is really what the question comes down to, and where the answer lies in terms of how we answer the question, because in answering that question, we will have answered any question about this union. And the truth is, the answer is grace. Nobody is worthy. It doesn't work that way, and it's not about merit. It is about life itself being available to each of us in a completely personal way, according to the depth of our meditation. And depth of meditation is something that you willingly choose to participate in experiencing over time, and in cultivating the deepest awareness of yourself. There is help available. We are a demonstration of that help that is available. We're, of course, not the only help that's available, but the help that's available is all focused in making these experiences possible to humanity. So there is really what we're cultivating in ourselves is an openness to receive. Because what has happened is that all of our attention has been pulled outside. You'll notice when you begin to come back from meditation that the first thing that happens as you open your eyes just a slit is that your energy just wants to go completely outside. And this is because the world has trained us that that's where the action is. The true action, the true defining awareness of the purpose of our life is actually found inside. And there's very little feedback in the world to give us the benefit of that awareness, that knowledge, that information, that the truth of a life well lived is where it's lived from in a human being, not what material accomplishment has been made. We've all been led to believe that material accomplishment is the only way to survive. And so we have infused in us the idea that unless we pay attention outside, we will not survive. beyond a certain age where we're meant to be cared for. So we have to clearly examine that statement that our survival is in jeopardy if we take our attention inside. And in some circumstances, that's the truth. So it is important that whenever the fear of survival arises, which it does regularly in our inner journey, whenever that fear arises, it's important that we examine our circumstances, our immediate circumstances. Is our life in jeopardy? And for the majority of the moments of everyone who's on this call, our life has not been in jeopardy. As we see with the behavior of various despots in the world, that's not always true for everybody. And so it's a worthy question. And those of you who have been with us for a while know that we have a practice for embracing fear when it arises. But sometimes it is telling us our life is in danger, and it's important to pay attention. It's always giving us feedback that fear has arisen. And we all know Ho'oponopono and how to say that practice to reestablish our connection to our highest. We're always saying the practice of Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, thank you, I love you. We are always addressing those words to our highest self, not to anything or anyone outside of ourselves. And so the entire practice we're talking about is a meditation practice that we cultivate deeper and deeper connection to our highest. So we hope we've answered that question, that imperfection is part of how we're made. It's part of our everyday experience, imperfection. And being perfect is not what takes us to God. Being open to God herself or himself, there's actually equality there. Being open to divinity, which is beyond gender, but the opinion of how gender works is that it's just like an electrical socket. There is a male side and a female side, and that union is what gender is about. And without walking hand in hand in worldly existence, peace will not happen. So the first step to cultivating peace is inside ourselves. We can't create peace between ourselves and another until we actually have experienced peace within ourselves. And knowing how to bring ourselves to peace. Because remember, imperfection is part of daily experience. We accept it as one of the conditions of our daily experience. And we accept ourselves in that. We don't reject ourselves when we discover imperfection. We celebrate the learning because life is about personal evolution. It's not about perfection. And so as we learn to celebrate our own imperfection and to have a sense of humor about it, we also develop the capacity to embrace the imperfection of others and develop a sense of humor about that. So when things happen, our reactivity becomes a lot slower because we're not blaming the other person for being imperfect, because we know that's a condition of being human. I'll give you an example. Andrew and I were recently on vacation in Hawaii, and our plane coming back was supposed to leave at 4:50. Well, I have always trusted my mind because it's been good at holding details like that. But I switched it to 5:40. And then our taxi was 45 minutes late. And so we arrived at the ticket counter too late. And immediately we're told that they couldn't even take our luggage because the plane was going to leave, in 20 minutes. And they just didn't have capacity to handle that. So we both went into reactive mode pretty quickly. And then the ticket agent started seeing what was possible for us and figured out that we could take another flight 6 hours later, and got that all set up for us. And in that 5 minutes that she was doing that, we kind of each settled down and we looked at each other and we said, we're not meant to be on that plane. Let's just have a good time. It's not time for us to stop our vacation yet. We can just have a good time here. And so that 5 minutes was pretty intense. But it was only 5 minutes, which, if you know where we started from a long time ago, that was really something, to be in that moment and have the permission and the internal grace with each other to just say, this wasn't supposed to happen in this way. It's going to happen differently, and we're okay with it. And then we really did celebrate. In that time, we just celebrated having time together, that we didn't have to be anywhere or do anything and could just be where we were. And so, yes, imperfection happens every single day. It's how we choose to be in ourselves with it that determines whether it destroys us and for how long. And by destroy, I mean going to blame and shame and these things that we do to each other in relationship that are just extremely destructive of our inner state. And so what happens is we practice deeper and deeper and deeper and allow ourselves to be evolving people who are certainly interested in being perfect, but well aware of the fact that it's not going to happen. So we don't hold ourselves to that standard. We hold ourselves to the standard of evolution, to the purpose of evolution. So I don't know about you, but I have yet to meet anybody perfect. And so that can't be the requirement. So being in union is not about perfection. It's about self-acceptance. It's about really looking at what it means to be a human being. And, dropping all the negativity about it every time it comes up. So when something comes up inside us that tries to destroy us, we understand it's a gift. It's a gift from our inner about a part of us that has not yet been resolved into harmony. And so we see every negativity as a gift of the opportunity to evolve further. So we no longer reject ourselves for the opportunities when blame and shame comes up. We say, oh, hi, blame. Your anger, it's okay, you're welcome. And we say Ho'oponopono through it to our highest self to bring it into the harmony of our own energetic field and free ourselves to evolve bigger, more compassionate toward ourselves and others. We hope that answers your question.
Slight clarification.
Yes.
What you said is it's not about merit, but it's about depth of meditation. And for a lot of people, that's the catch, because they say, well, I'm too agitated or depressed, or there are too many external pressures for me to go into that state. Therefore, I lack merit in that way, because without being able to get past that gateway, then I'm excluded, or I'm excluding myself, or you sort of answered it, but it's always
Yes.
assuming the person has the clarity to say, oh, it's not me, it's and
Right.
this is not what they're coming here. They're coming because they feel horrible about themselves.
Yes. And so let's tell you all this conversation. So Andrew's asking what to do with a person who is too agitated to experience deep meditation. So the entry practice is Ho'oponopono, which in itself is beginning a discussion with our highest. So the faith, the only time faith is required is in the very beginning, interestingly. And the faith is not in someone else or something else. The faith is that this depth of awareness is inside you. This is the moment and the practice and the very thing that we must embrace to begin to quiet our mind, is that the highest best exists within each of us to be discovered. And then the practice of meditation and the practice of Ho'opono, which really are the same thing, become tools. And the second thing that is required is the willingness to impose some discipline on our mind. Because it does require discipline to practice a mantra like we did, a living mantra like that. But this is a way that we can begin to experience the flow of our energy and the change of our state just by changing our attention to that practice. And the reason we don't recommend that first is because in our experience, many people will use a practice like that to change their state for a minute, and they'll experience something wonderful, and then they immediately go back to their old state. And we call that spiritual bypass. That's when you haven't dealt with the resistance to the self-discipline required to allow yourself to experience the negativity. And this is the first thing that happens when you begin to meditate, is that your body starts to off gas all of the collected negativity. And this is why the entry level is the hardest, because our body wants to get rid of this negativity. And so we have to learn Ho'oponopono. We have to discipline ourselves to begin to quiet our mind. There's no way around this discipline that's required that we've discovered, but there is the opportunity to experience in moments the energetic system itself in a practice such as the Om meditation that we did. But that has to be understood as a way to experience something that you want to live from. And the learning to live from it is the engaging in the inner battle, which is what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. It's the inner battle where we confront that which would destroy our peace. And we say Ho'oponopono to every bit of it, every time it comes up. And of course, it's hardest at the beginning. And one has to have faith. And the experience of the Om meditation is part of how we cultivate that faith, because we experience that flow. We can experience the movement of our energy, that we are an energetic being, and beneath that, a light being. And who knows what's beyond that? Evolution is continuous and endless. This we can tell you for sure. And the beginning is the hardest but it also is the most inspired time, because when you touch these practices, you know in your heart of hearts, when you have any experience of opening, you know that it's there. And once that happens, then you have to be insane not to come back to it and cultivate it, because it's so beautiful. It's so amazing. And it's what we're made of. And having experienced that for a second, you never forget. Unless you willfully try, or you decide to completely close yourself off. And we hold great compassion for anyone who has done that. We hope that answers your question.
Yes, and it seems that ultimately, even in the very beginning, about somebody to be able to access their faith is an act of grace, which
This is true.
given, so that's their karma to not ever experience that. Or
Well, not in this moment. Yes, it is an act of grace to experience God, the divine, the highest best. How else could we explain it? There's no language for it. It's a great gift. And not everybody can receive it. But everyone who's on this call has received it. So use the tools you've been given to go deep every day. And the real truth is loving ourselves is the answer. We are the love that we've been waiting for. And all of us, no matter how evolved in one moment, have the capacity to experience the complete opposite in the next moment. So life is really a kaleidoscope. So we'll go back to have a sense of humor, do your best. Evolution is possible. And equanimity is living in the center of that kaleidoscope, eventually merging awareness deeply enough that even when our life is threatened, our equanimity is not. Because we know there is more to life than our physical body. This is why we say evolution is way bigger than we can comprehend. So a word about karma, since Andrew brought it up. He said that if some people close down, then it must be their karma that they don't experience living from God in this lifetime. So we all have a blueprint. Karma is part of that blueprint for all of us. We all have pluses and minuses that we bring to this life. And some of us have the grace to evolve, to know we should evolve, and have the luxury of the time to meditate. And the grace to have enough moments of success at it to keep going. The inspiration comes to us and we feel determined. And also, that capacity for determination and self-discipline is also part of the blueprint. And so some people come here bound to do that, but certainly not everyone. But the potential is there for everyone. The potential for grace is there for everyone. And we all come from the same source. So it's always worth doing for ourselves. When we're inspired, we become evangelistic. I guess that's the word, to want to inspire everyone around us to do same. And we learn fairly quickly that that's not the strategy that works for everyone around us, because people are in different stages of their evolution. And so we learn fairly quickly that unless we're asked about something inner, our opinions are not welcome. And we may even lose connection to some of those nearest and dearest to us if we pursue them in an effort to bring them to our belief system, our matrix of belief as we evolve. And so we learn to be a little bit quiet about that until people reveal their true interests. Then we're welcome to move forward when asked. So we welcome further questions on this. Andrew, are you? Wally, hi. I can't hear you yet.
How's this?
Yes, there you are.
Something I often run into, especially when, in terms of thinking of evolution, my own, other people's, the world. I know in the abstract, and I think you said this, that time and space are artifacts of this dimension that don't exist in others, in higher ones. And so I trip over myself trying to think about things, and I trip myself by thinking, oh, well, time isn't real, so I can't think of it in terms of progression. I can't think about anything in terms of progression. My own life, my other lives. So I guess the question is, do I just set all that aside?
So can you all hear that question? Okay. So here's how we'll answer that. The reason we have time is because we have bodies. And our bodies are finite. There are stories of people who transcended their finite, but they're few and far between. People in India who lived way in the mountains that, are still seen occasionally. So that may or may not be true. But if that happens, it's very, very rare. We can say that for sure. So the reason that time is important to us is in three-dimensional reality, which we all experience every day, unless we live in some rarefied meditation environment where we don't have any responsibility to even be in our body. And I don't think I've ever been in an environment like that, if it exists. I mean, maybe some saints who choose at the end of their lives to be buried alive, or, you know, some other practice like that, are freed to be in infinity while they still have a body, but that also is very rare. And so three-dimensional reality is a huge part of what we are. But the value in knowing that when we don't have a body, we are not limited by time and space, allows us to expand our imagination, to begin to experience ourselves as being multidimensional beings. And so in that arena, having the awareness that time and space become irrelevant in other dimensions, when we enter those dimensions, we surrender time and space as part of our experience. When we come back to time and space, or if we are in the same moment experiencing a dimension of reality that does not have time and space, and we are at the same time in this dimension of reality that does have time and space, then we are occupying a state that allows both. Short of that capacity, the two don't really intersect. But, and this is the linchpin, is what's imagination? Where does that fall? So if we start to experience our imagination as an expansion of our reality into another dimension, then suddenly our matrix of belief must expand with it. And we begin to understand that it's been there all along. And it's part of our access to multidimensional awareness that we've never had the language to allow ourselves to experience as multidimensional. And so it's a wonderful question, because it's brought this front and center. That imagination is where we begin our expansion. Does that make sense?
So I can imagine being able to imagine a higher state than I'm in at a given moment. Sometimes I'm able to do that, and expand in that way. And are you saying that that's the way to go?
Well, this brings up the distinction between meditation and dissociation. And because we have precise language for this, and it's not a precise experience, the difference. But we're going to say inside yourself, see if you can discover the difference between dissociation and meditative expansion. And we'll say this, that one involves, well, they both ultimately involve expanding beyond the physical, but so let's say this, we are in our expression limited by Rebecca's experience and language. So we're going to speak from that perspective because we don't have language to be precise. Both. So her experience is that the meditation experience expands beyond the body until the body is no longer important. And so the awareness is not contained in the body. The body is irrelevant, but in the coming backness, the body is still the center of the experience in its beginning, and the expansion doesn't exactly leave the body. Her question to us is that the way it is for everybody? And we are attempting to answer that question. The answer is it's not, the experience is not always that for other people, but that it's an important concept to consider the difference between meditation and dissociation. So we'll leave it with that for the moment, until we may at a later date have a language way to answer this question. Because the language is, that's not exactly the right way to say it, but English doesn't have it. It will not be forever that we can't answer this question, though. We hope that's enough for now. Is it prompting further question? maybe we can get further. Yes.
Would you say that dissociation has a quality of wishful thinking?
Not exactly, because expanded awareness is expanded awareness. The but the capacity to really Rebecca is at the moment studying practices that involve meditation as really disciplining the mind and the expansion that's available from there. But her experience is not, it's tadpole. So nothing can be spoken more about it. What we can say is that it's headed in a right direction. We will not say the right direction, because experiencing multiple dimensions can happen for people in many different ways. We will say that the problem with dissociation is that the entire being is not experiencing, so there is a here and a there, and they're not connected. That's the nature of what dissociation is, and that there is a way to be here and there at the same time, which is an expansion of the totality that allows for greater perception that we would call expanded awareness, but there is no disjunction in the awareness itself. There's no disconnect. And the dissociation by its very nature is a disconnect. That doesn't mean that it's in dissociation, it's not possible to maintain connection. And so we would say that's different from expanded awareness, although both things can have the experience of timelessness and unbounded space. And the other thing we would say is that, no, we'll stop there. Is that helpful?
Yeah. It's experiential. You have to explore the
Yes.
different. And I'm wondering, when you were before you gave us the OM practice and you were leading us through guided meditations, which were about expansion, um, into, all the way out to the multiverse, and that seemed to me like a right use, a very powerful use of imagination.
Powerful use of imagination, but you notice at no point did they say, let go of the perception of, it was always expansion in the context of being in your center at the same time. That everything expands to encompass. Which is not the same as leaving perceptually. So there is no the difference between the two experiences, the Om meditation that we're doing now, is that it's more about cultivating where you start from with that expansion than being different from it. Because ultimately it's all one. Everything is one thing. And so the further out you go, the further in you go too. But our cultural attitude is that everything important is out. And so it takes a lot of training to experience the expansion of the inner. For most of us, we can't even imagine it. We experience inner as narrowing and narrowing and narrowing and narrowing, and So we think this is a valuable line of exploration for you in your inner work, to try to expand inward. Yes, that's why we're saying it. Interesting, isn't it?
Very mysterious to me.
Yes, this is the magic. Go toward it. Great. Really great.
Thank you.
So welcome. So we're coming to our meditation time. Happens fast. We love being with you. We have so appreciated the depth of the questions and the depth of our exploration together. It's wonderful. We're delighted that you're here. We're very happy to be with you. So we're going to go back to the original Om meditation, and we will be doing it as well. And instead of opening eyes, we are going deeper in our availability to you and not so much from the outside. So we'll see you there. And let's go back inward for a few minutes together. Thank you so much for being here today. We've so enjoyed being with you. Till next week.